Greetings, YouTube. Here's going to be one of my, well, now it's rare gun reviews. Decided to kind of get mostly out, but if something interested me, I would do it. So I did one with the Chiappa Rhino 357 mag revolver a little while back. And here's another one that I had that I didn't really talk about at the time, but never got around to it, but I figured I'll do a review on it, why I like it. But these are still going to be kind of few and far between. It's just not worth it with YouTube having such an anti-Second Amendment stance. They'll let you post the content, but they'll hurt you with your algorithms, whether you show up in search criteria. And then when you have one that's got 70,000 views and is actually making you money, they'll just demonetize it just because. So I'm not going to do a lot of these, focusing more on the other stuff on my channel. And it's slowly building up, back up into producing money and stuff. But anyway, the one I wanted to talk about, I've had these ones for quite a while, and this one's more newish, but I haven't talked about it on the channel yet. So I've been on a revolver kick, just like with knives. I was all about OTFs and modern, folding tactical knives, and now I'm more into the traditional knives and kind of appreciating the older style and utility of, just something that's well crafted and doesn't have to be the most high tech. It could be, the same as something that was made a century ago. And so, that has also bled over into my taste in firearms. Yes, I've got a wall of AR-15s and semi-automatics and pistols and all that kind of stuff that's, high capacity, even though that doesn't really mean anything. It just, they tend to be more rounds. They're designed that way. But you know what I mean. I tend to gravitate towards those types of modern sporting rifles and weapons. But over time, I grew to kind of appreciate revolvers. And I often carry some revolver for protection. So it depends on how I'm dressed, where I'm going. A lot of times I'm carrying my Springfield XD9S with the Crimson Trace, or the Ruger LCP Max. I've been carrying that more than anything lately. But there are times I'll actually carry the revolver. It just depends on what kind of mood I'm in that day. But I like the revolver because you can get them in a 357, 38 Special plus P. You can get a fairly potent caliber. They're very simple to operate, very simple to look and see if they're loaded. They don't tend to jam. And they're just nice little guns. You've got single, double action. In this case, I have a Taurus 856 Ultralight, which is the lightweight frame in 6-round instead of the older classic 85 model that was just a 5-round. And you've got single double action. It's a decent trigger pull. They're utterly reliable. I've never had a problem with Taurus revolvers. But I've also got like a Ruger GP100. I've got a Taurus, I think it's like an M44. It's like a 6.5-inch ported 44 Magnum in stainless. I've got other 357s. I've got the Chiappa Rhino. I think there's a Ruger LCR in the safe. So anyway, bunch of revolvers, but this one I actually carry, and I guess I'll re-explain it because that video I had, I've taken most of my gun videos down, was, when you want something that's just, you don't need necessarily a gun all the time that has, 20-round capabilities and stuff. A lot of times you just need something. Just having a firearm on you for protection is more often than not enough. Statistics say that, of all the defensive uses with a gun, upwards of just over 90% of them are able to stop a crime in its tracks without a round being fired. Just the fact that you have lethal force and you presented it is usually enough to stop most attacks. And that's a good thing, right? You don't want to have to get dragged into court over a wrongful death because, someone who's got a 19-page rap sheet decided to try to mug you or assault you, and you defended yourself, and now you're having to defend your life in court over what should have been and morally was a justified shooting. So, sometimes I'm of the mind of, if 6 rounds of plus P 38 Special or 357 Magnum hollow points isn't enough to get you out of a jam, you might be in over your head anyway. There is also an inherent advantage with revolvers that, a lot of times these things happen up close. Someone rushes you and, grabs you. You may be in close proximity to someone. And with the semi-automatic, that you may get that first shot off, but that often jams the gun. It pushes it out of battery. If someone's on you, tackles you, they're on you, and you manage to get this out, you may have it pressed against a target, right? And if you do that with a semi-automatic, you may push it out of battery. You've only got to move the slide on average like that much, and it won't fire. Or if it does fire the first time, its slide comes back. When it comes back forward, it grabs part of their clothing and jams the gun. So a revolver can be fired from a pocket, you know. You can cock that hammer and fire it in the pocket, especially if you got a concealed hammer. Then you don't have to worry about that snagging on the pocket. But so in some ways, revolvers are a little more versatile in that way. And so I've got a bunch of other, stuff, but enough about the protection. The one thing that is important to me right now is the cost of ammo. And it's starting to come back down, but it's still kind of pretty crazy priced. When I look at what ammo used to cost only a few years ago, it's stupid. So I've been getting into rimfire. I've got a Ruger Precision rimfire rifle with a really nice scope. I think the scope was more than the damn rifle. I've got a Marlin's semi-automatic. I've got a couple small, 22 pistols. And so I saw this a while back at my favorite gun store, just Georgia Gun Store up in Gainesville, Georgia. They had the new Ruger. I guess they brought it back. They used to make it, stopped making it, brought it back. This is the 942. Now, this is the steel frame. I don't know if they offer it in an ultralight, but I'll tell you, if you're carrying it, you can feel the extra weight in the steel. This weighs like quarter or third of a pound more than that. So this would be a little bit heavier for concealed carry compared to this. It's certainly doable. People carry much bigger guns than that. But there's a big difference in weight. The difference here is while it's the same weight or same size, uses the same holsters, this is an 8-round 22 long rifle. So for plinking and just shooting, general shooting, if you're just going to the range and you just want to shoot targets, you're not worried about stopping power. You're not worried about how big the hole is. You just want to go and put holes in paper. 40 or 50 cents a round, 9 cents a round. You can go to the range and you can put 100 rounds, buy a box of 100 rounds of ammo in 22 long rifle for like 10, 11, 12 bucks, depending on what brand and stuff you go with. 100 rounds of 38 special, even just cheap target loads, you're looking at close to $40 for the ammo. So you're looking at 4 times the cost to shoot the 38 special. The fact that this also uses the same holster, I can practice with this and go to the range and practice drawing and double tapping and things. Now, you're not going to have any recoil because it's a little 22 out of a heavier frame than that. 38 Special plus P has a pretty good pop out of a small, lightweight revolver. So you're not going to simulate the recoil. But if you just want to go to the range and plink or teach someone how to shoot, and that's where I think 22s are great. This is the Ruger Wrangler. And this is a single action. So I've already done the checks off screen. Actually, this one, I've only shot one. So that one is completely empty. And this, I believe, I don't even remember how many rounds. I think it's 9. I'm trying to remember how many rounds that holds. Let's go ahead and pop that and see. I got to push it from the other side. I always forget this one. Let's see. This is single action, so pull that out and let's slide out the cylinder. So 1, 2, 3. No, that is a 6-shot. So that is more mimicking, although it's obviously a little smaller and scaled down, like the old Colt Peacemaker. That's the kind of weapon they were going for here. There we go. So that is a 6-shot. And, this is good. This is actually fun to shoot. It's got very rudimentary sights on it. It's nothing crazy. It's not even that really greatly accurate with those sights. But it's fun to just go and kind of relive, when you're playing Cowboys and Indians as a kid or whatever, to be able to go and shoot and teach fundamentals. However, it is a single action, so loading and unloading is slow. That's why I brought this out. And I think that really, if you're trying to teach fundamentals and you just want to go out and do some cheap plinking, guns like this, if you want a revolver, or if you want a semi-automatic, get the Ruger Mark II or the Bushmark, about the, what is it, the Browning Buckmark? Yeah, the Browning Buckmark. If you want semi-autos, there's the Taurus TX22, which gets really good reviews. There's some really good options out there for semi-automatics. But I haven't found a ton of 22 long rifle stubbies. There's not that many of them out there. I think Ruger makes the LCR in a 22 long rifle. My mom, her carry gun is the 22 Magnum version, which is, you know, a nice little carry gun. But then, you know, if you go in Plinkin, the ammo does start to go back up in price. So having 8 shots at 22, I don't know that necessarily that I would use this as a defensive gun, but you certainly could. But it's a nice little gun. The trigger action, I need to get snap caps because I don't like to dry fire rim fire, if you don't know why. Well, I assume if you're watching this, you know enough about guns that you would know why. But in case you don't, when you have a center fire type of a round, that is here in the center. And so the firing pin will hit that. And if there's no round in there, then it just doesn't hit anything. If you have it in rim fire, that firing pin hits the edge of the rim. And so when there's not a round in there, that firing pin smacks into the cylinder. And if you do it a lot, you can mushroom it or break it, or, you know. So they don't recommend you do that. You can get 22 snap caps. I don't have any at the moment. So what I'll probably do is next time I go shooting, take 9 of these and spray paint them some color. And obviously when you go to load them, you'll see that there's no bullet on it, but make them clearly into snap caps so that I could practice dry firing if I want. So I have been able to really try the trigger pull, but Taurus trigger pulls tend to be pretty decent out of the box. This one does have a front black bladed sight. Now that is pinned in place. So you could remove that and you could get other front sights. So if you wanted a fiber optic or a different color, you could drive that pin out and pull that out and put a new one in. The rear sight, I don't know that you could swap that out, but it does have the notch, and it is adjustable for not elevation, but is for windage. So I'm guessing you would do your windage there, and then if you had to adjust, you know, you could get a taller or a shorter front sight. That would go ahead and make that, you know, that could adjust your elevation and stuff. But fits in the hand nice, uses the same grips. You know, here I did upgrade to the Hogue just because with 38 special, again, out of a lightweight revolver, this thing I think only weighs like 15 or 16 ounces. It's pretty light. And with 38 plus P, it's got some kick to it. So I did get the Hogue grip just so I could get that extra finger on there just to help control it. I'm not concerned with that with the 22. But if you wanted to, so that in your hand it felt exactly identical, you could throw that on. It's all stainless steel. Taurus makes a good gun. These are new. This one's made in Brazil, although it does say Bainbridge, Georgia. I know that some of the newer pistols, G3s and G2Cs and stuff, are actually made here in Georgia. But I think it's imported now into Georgia, but this is still made in Brazil. These are great guns. I've never had a problem with a Taurus revolver, and I have had a lot of them over the years. But that's the 942. It would have been cool if I could have gotten it in a lightweight. I don't know that I've ever seen a 942 ultralight. It would be cool just to have it just be that little bit of lighter. But I'm going to tell you, when I get this to the range, shooting even high velocity or you know, the Stingers or something like that, out of a heavier, like a 23 ounce revolver, this is going to have like no recoil, like none. It's going to make a little pop, and you may feel it. It may move like that much. It's going to be great for plinking. And so if you're teaching someone how to shoot, it's not an intimidating gun to shoot. You know, these are great for carry. And people say, well, 38 Special doesn't have a ton of stopping power. Maybe, but there are certain guns like small 380s, lightweight 38 Specials, if you're shooting like full power loads, you know, it may not have the stopping power of a 9mm or 45 or whatever, but it has a substantial amount of recoil, and that can be intimidating for a new shooter, young shooters, women, someone who maybe's got arthritis in their hands, or they're just sensitive to recoil. And that's where a 22 could be a really nice training tool and get them acclimated on how to handle a weapon, how to check it for safety, how to fire it, single and double action, how to manage, you know, what little recoil there is, but get them used to shooting. And then maybe they can, once they're not afraid of it and they've got their confidence up and they have, you know, a decent technique, then you could step up to 38 Specials, 357s, and 44 Specials, you know, and other calibers. But this is a nice little gun. I haven't gotten a chance to get to the range with it. I've had it for a little while, but haven't actually taken it to the range. I always kind of forget that it's even in there. So I need to make a mental note. Next time I go to the range, I need to take this and put some rounds through it, because I think it's going to be a wicked little shooter. It's only a 2-inch barrel, so I'm not expecting, you know, crazy accuracy out of it. But I will say there's a Federal line of ammo called Punch. and they have 22 long rifle. I think it's a flat nose. It's actually made for defensive purposes, and it's designed, the powder in there burns a little faster and builds up more pressure. It's designed to deliver, I think 1150 or 1080. It delivers the optimal velocity out of 2-inch barrels. Now, when you throw it into a 16-inch barrel rifle, then it's going to shoot like 1600 or something. It's really hot stuff. But out of a 2-inch barrel, it actually delivers the right velocity to get decent penetration. Now, I'm not saying, oh, you should all jump and carry a 22 instead of a 38 or a 9mm or a 40 or whatever, float your boat. But for someone who is sensitive to recoil, but, having a gun is better than having no gun. And having 8 rounds, if you've got the Federal Punch, which I think I have in there somewhere. I know I gave some to my friend Jen when she bought one of my little LCP2 and 22 long rifle. I gave her a box. I think I still have a box for myself in there somewhere. But that stuff's fairly hot. And you know what? 8 rounds of this at close range, it's going to ruin someone's day. It's not going to have what they call knockdown power, but that's kind of a misused term anyway. There's very few calibers that knock someone down. I don't know if it's Newton's second law or third law or conservation of momentum or whatever it was. Every action has an equal and opposite reaction. Object at rest wants to stay at rest. Object in motion wants to stay in motion. A round that hits someone and could knock them off their feet would have also knocked the shooter off their feet when they fired it. The bullet hitting something, that energy of it hitting cannot physically exceed the energy of it taking off, going from a state of rest and the explosion and that acceleration out the barrel. That's what recoil is. That's what that energy is. It has to go somewhere. That bullet is at a state of rest and it's wanting to resist that. And so more powerful and heavier bullets have more recoil because they're resisting more. Well, then at the other end of the arc, when they come out of the barrel, there's that energy, then they hit. They can't hit with more than they left with, right? That's what it's getting at. So that idea of knockdown power that, oh yeah, you hit him with a 45 and hit him in the arm and it knocks him on his ass. No, it doesn't. If it did, you'd be on your ass just shooting the gun every time. You'd be picking yourself off the ground after every shot, and that clearly isn't how it works. So, but yeah, obviously the bigger the caliber, the bigger the hole, the more energy it deposits, the more chance it has of breaking bones and hitting vitals and stuff like that. However, some people can't handle the recoil of a 38 Special. Some people are going to struggle with a 9mm. You can get 380s in small packages, which is a less powerful bullet, but out of the smaller gun, the recoil often feels almost as much as the 9mm or the 38 Special. So this could be a good option for someone, and I like revolvers for new folks because, dealing with a semi-automatic, you have to load the magazine. So you get faster reloads, but you have to load the magazine itself, and sometimes they're hard to get the last few rounds in. You have to rack the slide, and if you're a new shooter, you're often likely to have a limp wristing because you're not holding it right, which can induce jams, and under duress, that could be a problem because now you're struggling to remember, okay, I got to do this, clear the round. A revolver, you just point and shoot. If you had a bad round, if that was a hard primer, which can happen with 22s. 22s can jam semi-automatics, but in a revolver, I don't worry about. If you had a hard primer, the 22 doesn't go off. When you cock it or you just pull the trigger again, it just rotates to the next round and boom. So you just keep pulling the trigger till the thing goes boom. And so that's why for like beginners and new shooters, I think revolvers are ideal. It's less things going on. It's easier to look at and see if the dang thing is loaded. I mean, when you look at this in 38 Special, you can see right through there. You can see that there's no rounds in there. And it's very easy to check. And if it is, boom, and they all fall out. It's very easy to unload. You're not racking slides. You're not clearing jams. I feel like revolvers are a little more reliable. Anything mechanical can fail, but revolvers fail at a small fraction of the rate that semi-autos do. Something typically has to break in the gun, whereas you can induce a jam fairly easily, or you could have a dud round or crappy ammo that can very easily jam a semi-automatic pistol. That's not going to really happen here. The chances of that happening here are not non-existent, but they're minimal. So anyway, that is the 942. 8 shots of 22 long rifle goodness, adjustable rear sight, stainless, nice little gun, uses the same holsters. If you've got a model 856, That could be a great companion and training tool. Do you want to spend 40 or 50 cents a round and beat your hand up? Or do you want to go practice for 8, 9, 10 cents a round and shoot all day in comfort? Take your pick. Anyway, if you got questions, throw them in the comments.